Okay then, thanks so much everybody. So next up we have Shaun Loughlin, who's the Global Head of E-Commerce at LeMieux, one of the fastest growing equestrian brands in the world. Now Shaun has close to 20 years of hands-on experience in digital, mainly growing early stage e-commerce brands. And he's built multiple award-winning teams to deliver rapid growth and has even spoken about e-commerce at 10 Downing Street. Now we had him on a panel here last year and he's come back, stepped up, and bringing a session himself this year. Really excited to see this one. It's all about the power of customer feedback. Please, a big round of applause to Shaun.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the very favorable introduction, Joseph. Some of that was actually true. My name is Shaun Loughlin, and as Joe said, I'm the Global Head of E-Commerce for LeMieux, which is the hottest brand in the UK equestrian industry right now. Definitely the market leader, and very rapidly becoming a global leader in the industry. And today I'm going to talk you through who we are and what we do, the challenges that we've used customer feedback to overcome, our process for using customer feedback. I'll give you some successful examples of how it's driven significant change in our business, along with the results that we're seeing from this. And then finally, I'll summarize the key points and tell you what you've just heard again. In terms of who we are, this is LeMieux. This is who we are and what we do. We manufacture and sell everything that a passionate equestrian might want or need to fit their lifestyle, but our bread and butter is technically excellent equestrian equipment and rider wear, which also looks great. And we sell that to everything from casual riders who just want to look and feel good while out on a hack, to more serious riders competing at amateur level, all the way through to elite level professional riders competing at world and Olympic level. And today I'm going to talk you through a process I've used to overcome a very serious challenge for me in my journey at LeMieux. And that is that I know absolutely nothing about horses or equestrian equipment. Nothing. At least I didn't when I joined. I've learned a little bit along the way. And this is a problem when you work for the country's leading equestrian brand. To make matters worse, when I joined, the business did not have a customer data platform live. There was no CRM. Google Analytics had not been configured correctly, and the business had also just migrated from a legacy ERP and web platform. So on top of being completely clueless and out of my depth, I also had no data to work with. What I did know, because I'd been told, is that the target LeMieux customer is a young woman, typically, although not always, in the higher income bracket, who loves horses. And I mean really, really loves horses, which you can see very clearly in the order of priority of our category sales. In the top spot, it's horseware, which is our top-selling category by an absolute mile, followed by women's clothing and rider wear, teenagers, kids, and menswear. So the horse very much comes first. Dad is definitely last. The customer is incredibly passionate about what they do. They love riding. They love their horse. But they're also incredibly knowledgeable, and they need to be because it's a very complicated sport. We sell over 3,500 products across hundreds of product types. They've all got very difficult to remember names that I get wrong all the time. And to make it even more confusing, they're all called different things in different markets. So in America, for example, horse rugs are called blankets, because why not? Head collars are called halters. Fly hoods are called ear bonnets. Bridles are just called bridles, which is easy until you find out that a bridle is actually 8 different products, and they're all called different things in different markets, or depending on who you're talking to, or they've got multiple variants. So the challenge that I had coming into the business was figuring out, as quickly as possible, how do I sell complex product I know absolutely nothing about to a customer that's really passionate and knowledgeable about it, whom I also know nothing about and have no data on. How could I possibly improve their experience with LeMieux and add value to a business which was already phenomenally successful, already had an amazing website, already was growing really quickly? Where do I even start? And the solution was not exactly revolutionary, but it was very, very effective. We simply asked our customers what they wanted, and then we worked really, really hard to give it to them. And what's on screen is a little bit of a simplification. There is more to it than this, but fundamentally, this is the approach that we took, and the results, which I'll show you in a moment, speak for themselves. So there is a bit of a process, and fundamental to this process are three key pillars. The first is open-ended feedback. So no preset answers, no multiple choice, no drop-downs. You've got to ask customers questions that don't have yes or no answers, and then you've got to give them the space to say whatever they want, even if they write you an essay, and some of them will. The second pillar is making sure you've got multiple regular sources of feedback. This is not a one-and-done exercise. You won't learn everything you need to know from one survey or one round of user testing or one focus group. It takes time to build up a picture of what's really important to customers. The third pillar is the system you use to analyze and group the feedback. And this part is equally important because how you group the feedback dictates how you prioritize the solutions. We use a system called reflective analysis, which I'll explain in a sec. So coming back to the start, collecting open-ended feedback is all about prioritizing qualitative research over quantitative data as the starting point. And I know some of you will be thinking that you need both, and that is true. But most of us spend far too long buried in our quantitative data sources. Google Analytics, our CRMs, our CDPs, our business intelligence tools. But be honest, how often do we actually speak to customers? How much time do we spend reading customer support queries, running surveys? Do we have checkout-exit surveys? If we do we actually read them? How many of us working in e-commerce have never actually spoken to one of our customers or read any reasonable quantity of feedback? I suspect it's pretty common. So the first pillar is collecting open-ended feedback and prioritizing qualitative research over quantitative data as the starting point. The second pillar is having multiple sources of feedback that you collect regularly. And there's millions of ways that you can do that, but I found that the simplest and most powerful are checkout-exit surveys, which pop up immediately when a customer attempts to leave the checkout, and post-purchase surveys displayed immediately on the order confirmation page. And the reason that these work so well is because you're getting customers in the moment of frustration when they're about to abandon the checkout, or in the moment of joy when they've just placed their order and they're really excited about receiving their product. And we found these to be so valuable that we actually have them sent straight through to our inboxes as and when they're received. So we've got this constant stream of customer feedback and a gauge on customer sentiment at all times. We then use these simple surveys to steer more in-depth qualitative research methods like interviews and user testings to help us dive deeper into the specific issues raised. And if you can combine these with those simple surveys, it's incredibly powerful. So that's the first two pillars. The third pillar is your feedback categorization process, which helps you turn qualitative feedback into quantitative data. We use a system I've recently discovered is called reflective analysis, which is basically just being the annoying kid that asks these questions over and over and over again to force you to get to the real problem customers are trying to overcome and to force you to think deeply about how to fix it for them. So you read the feedback, you analyze it, you rationalize, you question it, and you figure out what is the real problem the customer has and what solution can we put in place to resolve it. You cannot take what customers say on face value, especially if they're being abusive and using colorful language, but just because a customer is a bit of an a-hole doesn't mean they don't have a genuine problem that it's worth your while trying to fix. Finally, you categorize the feedback based on the solution, not based on the problem. And this part is really key, because what you'll see is that you can come up with solutions that fix multiple customer problems, allowing you to group seemingly unrelated customer feedback into single solutions and more efficiently prioritize them. And no, just no. Regardless of how good you think your prompt engineering is, and it's probably not that good, this is a manual process. So that's the process. Here's a couple of examples of how it's significantly impacted our business. Coming back to my 3 live survey questions, this one has been game-changing for us. And it's been game-changing because of an increasingly common answer. What we're finding, thanks to this feedback, is that there's a growing divide between the consumer who uses our product and the customer who's actually placing the order on the website. What we always believed, and what we built the site around, is the idea that mum is the target customer. She comes onto the site, buys for herself, buys for her horse, buys for her kids, maybe buys something for dad. But what's actually happening more and more is that mum isn't even in the picture at all. The kids are going straight to the grandparents, and this has huge implications for us in all sorts of areas. As I mentioned, the site was built for knowledgeable equestrians, which Grandma definitely is not, based on the feedback that we're seeing. We're expecting her to be able to navigate this kind of stuff, and she's got absolutely no chance. So we're now developing assisted buying programs and testing new versions of our menu to help try and deal with this use case. But what it also means is that we're potentially marketing the brand in the wrong places to the wrong people. Historically, we focused on Meta, and the bulk of our advertising reach is actually on Facebook, because that's where the older customer is who's completing the transaction on the website. But that's clearly not where the demand is being driven for a growing portion of our product range. So we're completely changing our paid social and content strategies based on this insight to focus on channels with a younger audience where the demand is actually starting. So this tiny piece of direct customer feedback is driving huge change in how we merchandise our website and even how we market our brand online. So that was a relatively straightforward example. This one is a little bit more complex. As I mentioned, when I joined LeMieux, I was completely clueless. So to help get me up to speed and get me to a place where I wasn't being carried by my team, we ran a survey with 7 open-ended questions that could not simply be answered yes or no. I thought that was a fair amount of typing, so the take-up would be relatively low, but once again, clueless. We had over 4,000 responses in just a couple of days and had to take it down. But that meant having to analyze and categorize over 28,000 unique pieces of customer feedback, which was incredibly painful and laborious. But it's not an exaggeration to say that this has been revolutionary for us. Probably the most insightful and useful feedback came from this question. If you could get us to add one feature to our website, what would it be? And customers said all types of colorful and interesting things in response to this question, but there was one clear theme that really stood out and took us down a rabbit hole we weren't expecting. Despite the varied ways in which they said it, customers shared 3 common issues. They wanted an easier way to build a complete matching set for a number of reasons. They wanted to see which colors match which horse. And finally, they wanted to be able to easily share their choices with friends and family. And that's especially important if you're a 12-year-old that needs grandma to make the purchase for you. Once we understood these problems, we had a solution that resolved all of them. An outfit builder for horse and for rider. And because we grouped the feedback by the solution, not by the problem, and the outfit builder solved so many common customer pain points, it was a very clear outlier in the final report and an obvious place for us to focus. It was also a complete nightmare of a project. But with tons of work and substantially more investment than I'd originally discussed with my FD, we did manage to figure it out, and this is what it looks like. Customers can choose from a range of horse colors, and within one page, easily build their perfect outfit for horse, or for rider, or for horse and rider. And the whole thing has been made possible by developing 3D rendered product assets. So to my knowledge, we now own the world's only equestrian product-focused 3D render farm. Everything that I just showed you on screen was 3D rendered, with the exception of the horse and the model. And the horse and rider outfit builder was so incredibly successful that we built a second version for our toy range. Both received incredible feedback. Customers went nuts. You can imagine kids at Christmas playing with this for hours, and they did. And we're now integrating the outfit builders into the rest of the website shopping experience. So pretty soon you'll see these pre-built outfits and toy kits merchandised across the site seamlessly with normal products. We have spent the last 18 months trying to deliver everything that was on this list from the original report. And there's a fair bit that we're still trying to figure out, but we have managed to deliver most of it. And the point is, there's no out-of-the-box report or piece of software that would have led us to do half of these things. We developed these solutions because our customers told us they were important to them. And they told us because we asked. I think too often, we're not even asking what customers want, let alone delivering what they actually want. Most of the time, we're delivering what we think they want, and very often getting it wrong. And when you understand what customers want, and you give it to them, you see results. So focusing specifically on the outfit builder, it's the third most visited page on the website, beaten only by the home page and the basket page. A session that includes a trip to one of our outfit builders lasts 60% longer on average, so we know that customers are very highly engaged with these tools. The month of launch, we saw 51% year-over-year growth in brand searches online, which drove a 26% week-over-week growth in website traffic. Subsequently, we broke all sorts of records at Christmas, delivering nearly 60% growth in December, driven in no small part by our toy business almost tripling. Overall, our direct-to-consumer business has grown more than threefold in 3 years, with the bulk of that growth coming in the last 20 months since we've adopted this approach to direct customer feedback. Now, obviously, not all of this growth is driven solely by how we use customer feedback, but it's had a very significant role to play, and we've got multiple pieces of analysis and winning tests that back this up. 2 minutes, perfect. What should you take away from this presentation? I think there's 2 key points to take away from our experience at LeMieux. Firstly, speak to your customers. Ask them stuff. Do more qualitative research. Do interviews. Do user tests. Do surveys. Find out what's really important to them and get it straight from the horse's mouth. Secondly, I bet you didn't think I'd get through a 20-minute presentation about horses without making a horse pun. Secondly, do it regularly. Give customers multiple ways to tell you what they want. If you do this, you will learn powerful things which do not exist in GA4 reports. Thank you.